Welcome to the Founderville.vc podcast. This is a place where we talk to founders and entrepreneurs, just anybody that supports the entrepreneurial ecosystem. My name's Shay Hauser, here with my partner Scott Millwood, and we're super thrilled today to have Ryan Heaphy and Ryan Johnston, the co-founders of 6 a.m. City. Guys, thanks so much for taking time to come out and see us.
Thanks for having us.
Heck yeah, it's good to have you all out here.
The Ryans are among us.
The Ryans are here, and we love it. We've done every podcast in person so far.
Cool.
And I mean, inevitably at some point we'll have to do, Zoom or whatnot, but it's pretty cool to get in person and hang out and just sort of see each other. So welcome. And I think just to start, we'd love to maybe tell the audience, let's hear sort of the 6 a.m. City. This is the award-winning newsletter as a service organization that's been around a decade, but I know there's a heck of a lot more to it than that at this point, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely. 6 a.m. City is the fastest growing newsletter first local media company in the United States at its core. But we've really expanded into this newsletters as a service business over the past several years. And the company today is doing strong 8 figures in revenue, based in Greenville, South Carolina. I had to do the math there for a second. But 6 a.m. is doing strong 8 figures in revenue, operating our core owned and operated property in 31 U.S. markets. And we also operate dozens of newsletters for other businesses. We monetize our own core product as well as other people's newsletters. And we're really a content engine, taking what a lot of people do really, really well, packaging it, distributing it in a newsletter format, and making them a bunch of money, and we get a piece of that pie all the time. So it's been a really, really great journey building in this media space, which has been a really challenging opportunity, challenging space, really exciting opportunity. And we're really differentiating and changing the landscape on how media works in local and in niche verticals.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And if you're not a subscriber, you should be.
That's right.
Be a subscriber. I read it every day. I love it.
Yeah, well, you can go to 6amcity.com and it lists all of our 31 markets. So that's the easiest way if anyone's listening to check if you're there or check if we're in your city. And if not, there's a Submit Your City, which is an inbound lead mag for us to let us know the different communities or talent that might be in a city that wants us to come be in their backyard.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you guys get together? I mean, let's go back to sort of the beginning, and we love talking about grinding through the mud or the meat grinder or whatever you want to call it that startup is, but let's hear a little bit about the founding of the company, how you guys met.
So a little over 10 years ago, or probably I met Ryan about 12 years ago in a Chamber of Commerce program called Leadership Greenville. And we got to know each other, y'all, as well. So we got to know each other pretty quickly. We had heard about each other just because we both are pretty vocal about our opinions about the community, about opportunities, and about half of a bottle of bourbon at our retreat, we thought we had solved basically all the problems that our community had. And that really shared connection around a passion for place, on communicating and bringing people together to help drive progress in cities through making people aware of what's going on so that they can get plugged in and participate is how we kind of met. And then Ryan at the time was running he was running a local organization that was doing what was
STEM education.
STEM education. But before that, he was really a quality systems engineer for who was it?
8X machining.
8X machining tooling. So that was his background. He was very detail oriented. He was a workaholic at the time. He wasn't married, didn't have any kids. I would see him on the weekends at Starbucks, just sitting there working. And so, I at the time had been launched a business journal with my parents' company, Community Journals, that was print heavy. We had a bunch of different media entities, and we would have all these commercial real estate scoops, but we would put them up online because we had a very minimum web presence, and then everybody would beat us that had a larger or daily paper, or it was the TV station, and we would break the stories and we weren't getting the credit. And so had a crazy idea that what if we took all of the content that our daily newspaper or our weekly newspaper was producing, our arts and lifestyle publication, our business journal, and put it into one newsletter. But while we were at it, bring all of the community's content into that delivery vehicle. And that was pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then the other piece that we followed was directly tied to really treating a email, which was traditionally used by the news media industry as clickbait to drive traffic to the website, to actually use the newsletter as the primary delivery mechanism. And so we did that and kind of high level had the idea to do it, but we had no one to do it. And so Ryan, with this festival that was done annually, he had just launched it. It was very successful and pulled off, I think you sold, $250,000 worth of sponsorships for something that had never happened before. And he had some capacity. And so over a beer on the back of a napkin, showed him the build and said, hey, we've got a really lean management team over at Community Journals. Would you come on as a consultant? And so he didn't know anything about the industry, but he was an excellent executor. And we just started blocking and tackling on what it needed to look like, how it needed to be. And the challenge is my dad always said, I remember when he launched his very first newspaper at the party, he said, well, at some point we're going to have to leave here and get back to doing it all over again next week. Well, once you launch a daily newsletter, the audience expects it to come out the next day.
Right.
And so the conversation went from, okay, thanks for helping us build it. How are we going to do it the next day and the next day and the next day? And so that's kind of how we met, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Did I miss anything?
I think the big thing that we identified, aside from the gap, and there's just a gap in the market where people are looking to connect and live locally. And we took crime, punishment, divisive topics out of the product. That's been the biggest differentiator, I think, for us in a media product that's allowed us to have a larger total addressable market in all of our cities. It's allowed us to create and operate in a brand safe capacity, which supports both the reader and the advertiser where they want to be.
It's positive, happy news.
Yeah. So it's still highly informative, lets people know how to spend their time, talent, and treasure in the cities that they live. But it's differentiated itself so much from all these other news outlets that have lost so much credibility because they're so polarized that it's actually creating, even today, a really huge opportunity for us to come to market differently and expand more so nationally because no one else is doing it. They're so rooted in their legacy models that it's opening up a door for the company.
I think something else that's real interesting about what Ryan said was twofold, is that we were able to attract a lot of strong, energetic talent that did not want to have to write stories on, a 2 a.m. shooting or really heavy topics. And we have a lot of staff members that literally say, this is my dream job, to get to consume positive news for the community, be out at all of the coolest, funnest, exciting events and share that with the community. So the talent was huge by taking that avenue. And then the second piece is, it's hard to write about those bigger, heavier topics and do it well.
Right.
And so by not having to get into that, dipping our toes into that space, it's a lot cleaner for us to operate. And the other final piece is that Ryan hit on, which is it is so great for advertisers, which is where we make 98% of our revenue, that when they place their ad messaging into our product in an integrated fashion, when the reader opens our newsletter every day, their expectation is to be pointed in the right direction, to be a consumer of their city. So our our team, we literally say, look, we don't want you to write like a journalist. We want you to write like a marketer, because journalism is fact-based. Marketing is emotion-based. People want to buy their product. Whether it's their time, talent, or treasure, they're investing and making a decision to do something. And again, they're showing up to an event, filling up a cash register at a new bagel shop so that it turns into being a staple in the community. And so they're opening it, not being that you can't be a consumer if you've just read about the crime statistics and then be told, oh, look at this awesome vacation spot. So that's been really good that it's worked out well for the traction of the product.
So talking about traction, you guys got it rolling in Greenville. Good addition. When you were initially talking, did you think then about Greenville plus another 30, plus another beyond that? Or was it focused on, hey, let's get it going here and that's going to be a great business?
I think it was aspirational that it could be that big. I think maybe for me, the realistic scope was maybe South Carolina, maybe the Carolinas. And then we did that. And I think what happened along the way is that we recognized that the product market fit was strong enough that it could go. I mean, we always thought it could go, but when it was first starting, maybe we'll get a good family-owned business, a lifestyle business.
When did you know? When did it dawn on both of you that you had nailed product market fit in your first beachhead market, Greenville, to go, oh, wow, we got this, and now let's go do
I think
more.
We recognized Greenville really fast, extremely fast, and that let us go to a next city. I think what was the challenge for us is that we had no capital.
Yeah.
And so we may have actually gone faster, 2 more markets, but we really kind of had to wait and prove ourselves out. And the advertising buying cycles take years sometimes. Hey, we're here in your community. Do you want to advertise? They're like, well, come see me in January. Well, it's February of this year. So, it's a little bit time to wait. So we started to see over a few years that we got Greenville. We got Columbia. We got Charleston, South Carolina. These are all working. Asheville, Chattanooga. We started having conversations with a lot of people who I would describe as very legitimate that are not from this community, that are in media, that were high-powered. We're getting invited into the C-suite at some really big media companies to talk about, hey, we'd love to acquire you or partner with you or whatever. And he goes, okay, well, all right, this is interesting. We also learned along the way that we were pretty good at fundraising, and people were willing to invest in the product. And so I think at the end of the day, if you can take your product to a set of investors and you can raise all of the capital that you want and then more, something's working. Your financials are there or perceived to be there good enough or have a path to profitability. And the product market fit was there. I think a lot of people, too, from an investor perspective, could see our product in the market, which you can't see with a lot of things people invest in.
And it's easy to understand.
Yeah, and so it was an easier sell. It had a different emotional attachment for different investors. So it let us kind of go, and we started meeting some of the right people. A lot of this, too, was just we met some of the right people at the right time that allowed us to go and grow and also make mistakes.
Well, you found yourself in a position right at the right time, and that's not just luck. That's putting yourself in the right spot. I mean, it sounds like it was spun out of community journals. Is that essentially what you guys did? And then I wonder, starting in Greenville, where community journals had such a strong brand already, was there bias where you're worried, wait a minute, yes, of course we can do it in our own backyard. How do we now go do this in Columbia? I don't know what the second market was.
It was Columbia. So to answer your question, Heaphy, you jump in after this, is that my dad's always said that all of his products that he evolved out of were both advertiser and reader driven. And so when we were able to leverage a lot of his, decade-old relationships to call them into the conference room and meet with him and Heaphy and I without even having a prototype and describe the product take them through where and how we were going to offer the value to the advertisers. We knew we were onto something when we pre-sold $250,000 of advertising without any visuals.
Yeah, nice.
And so that was great. And then the truth was, as it comes to spitting it out of community journals, Ryan and I, this was a product evolution, GVL Today was, but building a true company and raising money for that so that it wasn't being invested into community journals, because it was like, well, how do we know? Like investors wanted to know that it was going into this product. And we needed to figure out a way to get equity as we proved the value creation. And so luckily that I have a very close, strong relationship with my father. He said, well, then prove it.
Yeah.
And this is great. You leveraged my relationships in Greenville, get this right, and then go show that you can do this in a market where you don't have the relationships, both from an advertiser and a reader standpoint. I think something else that I didn't hit on earlier was tied to media struggles to scale. Local media struggles to scale when it is not it's mainly tied to editorial. Like what is the product? You get like an editor in some market that really likes the outdoors, and before you know it, it's just all outdoors coverage. So really building the foundation of what that consistency looks like for the reader and for the advertiser experience is critical. And that's where Ryan really came in to say, look, we're going to build this day one in Greenville. And the idea, we knew that you have limited inventory that you can monetize on a daily basis. And so we would love to get this, to 4 to 5 cities. And that was kind of like the initial goal. And then once we really had that product fit that you described, we saw an opportunity to build that the systems and the foundation was built that we could turn on a market in 48 hours?
Now it's about like 24 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it used to be that we could spin up really and go. We would say 90 days, and it was 60 days, and it was 30 days, and it was a week. And now it's like truly the infrastructure can be turned on almost overnight.
And it's highly scalable at this point.
Yeah. And so we've learned a lot. I mean, if we were to restart this business today, we could do it a lot faster because the AI and workflows and a lot of this operational efficiency that's come to be available. And we're obviously trying to ingest a lot of that stuff into our own processes now. But because we already know how it works, we have a strong advertising base, we know the right formula, the things related to content, what's engaging, what gets people to the table. And we're now having conversations with massive brands about the opportunity to be their newsletter arm.
So switch gears a little bit because I'm super curious on the transition of being able to go scale not just to cities, but in newsletters around organizations, right? Like you guys have done some stuff in professional sports, which I think is just fascinating.
I think when you create a product, whether it's a newsletter or anything else, there's a set of steps that happen. We've gotten really good at it around newsletters. We know how to build an audience. We know how to curate content or create content. We know how to package that content, how to facilitate the conversation with the community, that engagement level. We know how to monetize it. And so now we're able to step in with any partner to do any of those things. And so for some people, I'm a healthcare system and I really just need a whole bunch of content created that we can use for our site, for our newsletter, for whatever. Like that, we can do that. Some other people want us to go full stack. So in the sports space, it's hey, design the newsletter. We have a whole bunch of podcasts. Take the podcast transcripts, turn that into articles to build the newsletter. Build me all the monetization tools. Go monetize it for me. Build all the things. Yeah. And so we can do that full stack. Newsletters as a service is kind of what we call that. And then for other folks, it's hey, produce the newsletter. We have a bunch of great content already. Produce the newsletter for me. Like we just are not good at that. Like we have a bunch of people who are subscribers or we have their email addresses because they're clients of ours, which might be a downtown bid district or a community association that has, they've got 20,000 email addresses or 50 or 100,000. And they have all this great content that they produce, but they don't know how to package and deliver it to the community effectively.
So along
And we
those
fill
lines,
that void.
along those lines, I think what it is that the newsletter itself is built to help drive communication. And what we've done, our core, is that we do that around cities in the shared passion for place. And in doing that, you build the mousetrap to successfully accomplish it through this device of the newsletter. And all communities are similar. Yeah. The stronger your community is, maybe it's internal with your company and you're a massive manufacturing company. Well, you're communicating to your staff everything that's going on, and you're wanting to drive engagement with them so that they're aware and excited. And it's a community, or maybe it's around cars, but at its core, it's that newsletter mechanism that allows strong communication around whatever that shared purpose is.
Communication and engagement. I think we're on.
One thing too that I picked up on is, that was a pretty significant course correction or new opportunity for y'all. When you started the business, newsletters as a service wasn't a thing. When did that become an opportunity? And all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, this is something brand new that we never thought of that's there. And then monetizing that, how did all that? I think it's sort of AI as well. All these things are shifting so quickly.
I think it was an evolution. I think that we were like, man, we are focused. We're really good at growing and selling ads, because the advertisers also need to move into new ways to connect with their desired customers. Mm-hmm. But it was when we were in Atlanta meeting with one of the largest international big boy media companies that was interested in talking to two kids from Greenville, South Carolina. We were solving a problem and had figured it out. And then the more we were talking to legacy media companies that saw, look, we've got to figure out how to grow our audience and meet them where they're at with these different formats. We need help. And that was probably the first signal that there was a need there. And then as we've continued to grow, where our sales team is listening to the advertisers that are, maybe they're a massive master plan community, going, look, we've got this newsletter product and it's like a C+. And what would it look like if you did it for us? Yeah. And so you're using the same type of learnings and strategy that we're doing daily in the same type of team members. And so all it really allows us to do is be even more dangerous for ourselves and for the customers that we're serving.
The infrastructure that we've built too just allows anything to naturally plug in. And leveraging AI, we can basically ingest, source, curate any data set or type of content.
When did you guys start to see that impact? We're 2 years roughly, 2.5 years into ChatGPT kind of taking off and doing its thing. When did you guys start to see it, but also start to adopt it?
Beginning of 24.
Yeah.
Probably, to start bringing it in to help. It's past. I think a lot of people don't realize that they were using it in some way, already tied to sales calls. It's video recorded. It's giving you this output of how well you did on your call, what you can improve. Here's the notes, the sales. So it was there in different ways, way more now, as everyone else in the world is seeing. But I think it was behind the scenes today. While we don't necessarily use generative AI to produce a ton of content, we use and establish AI agents. We use AI for coding and development work to streamline process behind the scenes that people just don't see. That part of changing the game for us is huge. It gives us a crazy competitive advantage. And we're using AI now in media at an extremely rapid rate, where most other players in our industry can't even figure out how to understand what AI is and how they might apply it to their company. And so it's giving us a really interesting differentiator for these opportunities that we're getting now, where large media company or publisher, XYZ or brand is like, I really need to get into a better way to communicate with my audience. Y'all have figured out how to grow the audience at super low cost. You figured out how to take everything that we do and package it and deliver it every single day, like very, very efficiently, and you can make money off of it. And we already have the advertising relationship. So we just bring to bear the stuff that we've created. And for us, it's materially incremental, and the margins are much higher every time that we bring new folks to the table. So, I mean, if we're focused on a few specific things right now, expanding our reach, so that we have a larger audience to sell against, whether that's our owned and operated products or someone else's. We are highly focused on AI automation and how we can apply that into our company to be more efficient and reduce costs in a lot of different ways, or scale lots of things faster. And then the monetization piece and diversifying revenue. And a lot of the relationships that we are creating now give us SaaS-based engagements with different clients. That's a totally different revenue stream from advertising sales. And that's really changing the game and the valuation of the business.
Because, I mean, in the past, we had the product market fit. We knew that we could grow to these many cities, and we just had to wait around for the revenue or to raise more money. But now, by moving into some of these other areas of the business that we are well positioned to support, we can use that revenue to build and grow the mothership faster without having to go wait on ad revenue to do it or raising additional capital.
Sure. Yeah. The subscriptions are a whole new part of the business now.
Yeah.
Corporates. And
the subscriptions are paid for by big brands with big dollars, and the readers still get the free product every day. And that's really kind of been a big differentiator for us too, on just creating accessibility to content. Like if you think about it, with us, newsletters, AI, low overhead model that we have, we're able to produce and distribute content at such a lower price point that we don't have to have paywalls or paid subscription models for the consumer. We can actually deliver it for free and to a lot more people and on a regular basis and with direct conversion. And it's paid for by the companies behind the scenes or advertisers, and that makes it sustainable for us and a great user experience. So you're not just, look at all the sites you land on with all the pop-ups and crazy like the stuff that's just a super awful user experience, and that's not part of our experience.
No doubt. Maybe shift gears and we can wrap up with this. You guys have had to raise a ton of capital. Talk about that experience. Was there ever a moment you're going to bootstrap it? And then how did it feel to take on investor capital? And just what, if you're talking to some new founders who are trying to decide, look, should we go try to scale and get VC capital? What do you think?
We've raised a lot of money, well north of $30 million, a lot of it in different debt structures that we've paid back. We basically had to build a company. If we go backwards, Ryan and I owned none of it in the beginning. It's product evolution. So we had to raise money without diluting ourselves. And so our path was a bit more expensive on the capital that we raised, which also means we raised a lot more. But we protected our equity. We were able to grow it over time. And it was hard. We've iterated our pitch deck probably thousands of times over the past 10 years. We raised money for at least 8 of the past 10 years, consistently all day, every day. That was like the life that I lived. We raised it in lots of different promissory notes, convertible notes, safes, selling fractional ownerships in our different community markets, equity rounds, the super expensive debt from folks when we needed it because we were in a pinch, and we've gotten through all of that. I think that at the end of the day, if you're raising money here in Greenville, South Carolina, there's a lot of great people who are willing to invest in your product, which has been awesome. I mean, the majority of our capital has come from the cities that we serve, specifically in the Southeast, and very much so from Greenville. But the thing that's really been interesting to watch other people raise alongside of us, because you go to these same pitch competitions, your product also has to be viable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just assume that I'm going to come to a pitch event or something, and I'm going to get up here and stand and actually raise the capital from my community. And then they get frustrated, like, well, why am I not getting any money? And oftentimes the founders aren't looking internally and going, I don't have the viable product. And I really need to evolve or think about this differently or get counsel. Yeah. I've talked to so many founders, even still recently, of people that I respect, and they're like, well, I can't share my idea. And I'm like, you're never going to raise money. You can't sit there. You don't have – guess what? You don't have any IP. That's like super special.
I always love when we get past an NDA before a pitch.
Yeah. Thanks.
It doesn't work that way.
I mean, someone's already 10 steps ahead of you probably anyways on any of it. It's a matter of like, can you come in and find your product market fit to compete in that same space? The odds that you take and pitch your exact thing to somebody else who's also working on that exact same thing is unlikely.
I really like what you're describing on the parallel of, yes, you can have a great story, but investors are going to see through if it's just a story.
Yeah.
If there's viable product with traction, it doesn't have to be everything done. It doesn't have to be perfect traction, but there has to be something that you can tell your story about that's actually real, not just the napkin, right? I mean, to raise on the napkin, maybe you can do that in Silicon Valley. A lot of people can do it with a phone call, but in the South, that's not how we roll, right? It's more like Ohio, right?
But I think you also
Missouri.
You have greater success here though. If you look at the total, so many things are starting in Silicon Valley. They get money and then they die tomorrow. Right. Here, because you have to prove yourself, your odds of success are much greater once you get the capital. So you do see a lot of great success stories coming. They may not be earth-shattering in their total size. I think some of them also fly under the radar. However, if you have a good idea and you are positioned to raise capital, you can get it here in Greenville, South Carolina. You can get it in the Southeast. And you also need to look beyond here. I think the other thing that a lot of the founders miss is that investors have their own investment thesis. And in any city in America, you're not going to find an investor that fits every business structure. Right. So if you are operating a media company and trying to raise money in the media space around an ad-supported business, well, there's a lot fewer people that are willing to invest in that than there is in an AI SaaS model. Right. So you just got to – you as a founder have an obligation to yourself and your business to go identify the right ways to raise capital, to find the right advisors to help you raise that capital. This is where working with Founderville, comes into play maybe in a lot of opportunities. People just don't understand what they need to do, and they don't ask. And ChatGPT is not going to tell you all of the answers.
I think something else that helped us is that because of the position we were in, that we had to raise the tranches of capital. It, like Ryan said, it helped not over dilute out the gate because we didn't have the revenue to justify like a smaller dilution. And so we would just raise and try. It was exhausting. Yeah. But what it forced us to do is stay focused and to be able to come back in front of some of our first early investors and say, hey, this is the slide that says what we told you last time we came in here. And now this is what we did. And it showed traction both. We've always said we have two customer bases, which is our readers and our advertisers. So we were saying, hey, look, we're continuing to grow. It's continuing to attract the audience, that customer base, and the advertisers are following, and they're going check, check, check.
Progress.
And then, and then the other piece about just not over raising out the gate and raising in the tranches is that it allowed us to not like overspend on something because we had the cash. Now it was exhausting because every time we were ready to raise, somehow, some way, it always ended up right around Christmas time. And here both of us are trying to raise families right. And come home from work just stressed out. And so that I do feel like every time we went to raise another tranche, maybe it wasn't early enough, which put that heavy pressure on. And there's probably a little bit of strong it's good to have that tension. Absolutely. You know.
Yeah. A lot of nuggets in what you just said. I mean, raising in tranches, showing definitive traction, going back to the existing investor base and saying, here's what we've done, here's what we said, and here's what we've done, here's what we've accomplished. You know, grinding out that next raise, you know, and then forcing you to focus because you didn't raise too much capital. I mean, that's the message that we're giving the founders all the time. It's that you have to show stair-step improvement to grow into the valuation that makes sense so that the early investors feel good about the money that they put in so far because you're going to ask them for additional capital.
One other thing I'd like to speak to personally is that when we started this business, the product innovation came from me. The execution really came from Heaphy. And because of that and the way that it all kind of came about, you know, I out the gate had more equity than Ryan did. And that was probably in like the first few years. And it wasn't a ton more, but it was more. And that created some tension between both of us, naturally, as you'd expect. And, you know, I obviously realized the value that he was contributing. And by the time it got to where we were equitable on the same level, it made us advocating for different business decisions so much easier. Yeah. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I can't tell you the amount of DocuSigns that I signed while driving that I didn't even read.
Because you knew he had it.
Because I knew that whatever I was agreeing to, he was agreeing to. And it just, I mean, it really, like I know that co-founders sometimes don't have, or for one reason, but the amount of efficiency that's come from knowing that we're both equal, you know, has made it so much easier to navigate making decisions. And I would hope that folks that are listening, that having a co-founder also is great, because when the thunderclouds are overhead and you have a young team that you don't want to scare to death, you know, you're sitting there, and there's a reason that they say it's lonely. It can be lonely at the top.
Yeah. I mean, co-founders work. It's that symbiotic relationship. You guys have figured it out. It's a marriage. It's a long marriage, and you know, congrats on figuring that out, because it's a key to success. If it doesn't work, it's the quickest way to failure.
Yeah. You know, just like any marriage, though, you know, you can be married for 50 years and still you have your arguments.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that we've figured it out yet, but we keep figuring it out as we go.
Well, the power of the co-founders is undeniable. We're firm believers in co-founders for so many reasons. Yeah. And at any rate, guys, this has been fantastic. I think we'll probably wrap this thing up. I know we've got some great nuggets of information that you guys dropped. There's some gold in there for sure. I heard a lot of great things. So I want to thank you guys for the time. Thanks so much for coming out. Yeah. And this is Founderville.vc over and out.